Hello, everybody. After this week's game against the 49ers, where the Bears picked up yet another loss and moved down to 3-5, the year of 2021 has so far raised more questions than answers. This year was supposed to be a year where we were going to see a lot of things develop. I think realistically, a lot of people knew this wasn't necessarily a team built for a deep playoff run. I think we were certainly hoping they'd look a lot better. The offense has been very deficient. Luckily, this past game, I think things offensively moved along quite a bit better compared to at least the Bears' own standards. But it really makes things interesting heading into the year of 2022. There's a lot of things that need to be addressed, especially from upper management for this coming year. And ultimately, the decisions need to start happening now. So far on this channel, we've talked very extensively about the trade deadline and players that the Bears could look to move off to get some more draft capital. Now, that's one part of the equation. I think there's really a lot of major things that need to be addressed. And I think our mind automatically jumps to the personnel side, and that is, of course, a huge issue. The Bears have come up short in a lot of areas. Of course, the O-line jumps out. I think it's apparent that they could use a bit more wide receiver depth. They need some help in the secondary to go along with Jalen Johnson moving forward at that other cornerback spot. I mean, I think Kendall Vildor has been serviceable, but hasn't necessarily been jumping off the page. And, overall, our depth at position is okay. And our depth across the secondary entirely is okay. But we could certainly use a step up in quality there. And with Mac out, we saw that, maybe we also need some edge rushing depth as well. Things looked pretty good earlier in the year with Gibson, but we need kind of more consistent pass rushing ability. I mean, this past week with just Robert Quinn, things were not working out well enough. Garoppolo had time to make decisions and pass the ball pretty deep downfield, hit on a couple big deep strikes that really exposed this defense, and the defense really did not look good. And to address this hitting head on, of course, the Bears do not have a first round draft pick in this coming year. They'll start picking in the draft, barring any trades, in the second round. They also have a third round pick. They gave away their fourth round pick, received a fifth round pick in the Anthony Miller trade, and have a sixth round pick. So not very many picks to choose from here in the draft. And it does hurt to not have that first round draft pick. Of course, the Bears trade that away to the Giants in the move to go up and get Justin Fields. I don't think the Bears need to be looking at a quarterback. I think Justin Fields has at least shown a good amount of promise. I think we'd certainly like to see more, but with the help that he's getting from the offensive line, with some of just the inopportune moments where receivers tip or drop balls and it ends up in a turnover, he's taking big sacks. We need to get him more help so we can really see this true progression that we want to see from him. I think in 2021 we wanted to see a lot more, but he's played his first few games and we've certainly seen a lot of bad, but there's been good in there as well. So we really need to give him a fair shot and move along. But to build off of that fair shot, it's ultimately not looking like Matt Nagy is going to be that person. There are that hot seat is getting hotter and hotter by the week, and that's just been inevitable at this point. Now the Bears are down to 3-5. Matt Nagy wasn't technically coaching this past game, but things have not gone well, and there's been a fair share of criticism to go around, especially with just how the offense, where he's supposed to really specialize in, has really failed to progress, and it has done so and stagnated for about the past 3 years, where this offense has really not made any strides forward in the right direction. It looks like they might have a piece or two here and there, but in general, the week-to-week consistency and the quarter-to-quarter consistency, drive-to-drive consistency of this offense is just not there. There's obviously not the rhythm, and no matter what amount of scheming that Matt Nagy wants to do, it just seems like it's not quite the fit, which is kind of crazy for a coach that has an overall winning record with a team. But I think the patience is starting to run out for what he's doing, especially when the team isn't necessarily improving. If you're not moving forward, you're moving backwards in this football league, and the Bears need to keep trending in the right direction. Now, of course, that puts someone like Ryan Pace's job into consideration as well. Someone that this will be his his third coaching hire if he were to remain on and Matt Nagy were to leave. I think Ryan Pace, there's certainly a case for him to hang around based off what he's been able to accomplish in the draft, but he has also wagered a lot of our picks to make big trades. I think Khalil Mack has had a strong impact. He's also made the moves to trade up for Mitchell Trubisky and Justin Fields. He hasn't been shy to make big deals. But really, his strength has been picking late in rounds to get quality players. We've seen it again with Khalil Herbert. Of course, Eddie Jackson, when he was popping off in his first 2 years, that seemed like an excellent pick. He's able to get a lot out of these players that aren't necessarily picked very high up on the board. But really, there's definitely a fair share of criticism. He's brought in two coaches already in John Fox and Matt Nagy that have not produced nearly to what this team should be at. Those John Fox teams were awful. The roster was awful. And at least Ryan Pace has been able to build it up, but I can certainly see why people want to see him out the door as well. I mean, it just has not been perfect by any means. And also another kind of knock to him is the same knock to Nagy, where the team hasn't really progressed over the past 3 years. Now, of course, that's really where Bears upper management, the ownership really needs to start making a decision. And the wheels should already be in motion for something like this. And if they're not, they are lagging behind. They need to be looking for head coaching candidates and keep an eye out on that, as well as possibly thinking about if they are going to retain Ryan Pace or not. Is he part of the vision? Is he linked up? I think that they originally had a lot of faith in him. I think the Bears management still has faith in Ryan Pace. He was someone that was brought in. Really kind of an interesting situation for the team where they looked for outside help. And I think they're still going to ride on that advice because they have seen some positive things from him. But really, there's nothing on this team that is cemented, that is set in stone. And it's really just a kind of big, where do we go from here? Hopefully, I think the big hope is that the answer at quarterback is there. The quarterback position has been the Achilles heel of this team for a very long time. And, if we are able to solve that hole, that is putting us a lot closer to achieving the mission of getting closer to competing for Super Bowls. But really, we got another couple empty slots that need to be improved, and especially along the offensive line and at the head coaching position. I think with the offensive line, there really haven't been enough moves. What happened to Tevin Jenkins was unfortunate, but the team has not prepared this year or in prior years for injuries along the offensive line, and they've taken hits because of it, literally and figuratively, if you're the quarterback in that situation. So, oh man, there's really just a lot of choices that need to be made, and as someone that is a fan that is watching from week to week, it's just harder for me to not think about these longer term questions about the future of this team. It's unfortunate that going into week 9 of this NFL season that we are contemplating these things, but that is certainly the reality of the situation. And it doesn't really help that we do not currently have a first round pick if this year goes completely backwards. I would love all of you in the comments to go ahead and drop down there some ideas. What head coaching candidates would you guys like to see the Bears go after if Matt Nagy is to be fired? And do you want them to look for another GM as well? This is a huge decision, guys. And, it's a really tough position, too, because they drafted their quarterback already, which is, you kind of like the logical way of things is a fresh new management. It kind of gets to bring in its own players, and that starts with the quarterback. But, we just took a quarterback high up in the first round in this past year, and I certainly think we want to put our faith in him for the moment. So leave those ideas down in the comments, guys, and I'd love to see what you all have to say. As always, bear down.